Hi, I'm Multiculturalism. I want to talk a little bit today about understanding diversity and multiculturalism. When I was 6 years old, I remember hearing two words on the radio. Those words were gorilla and Negro. I had been to the Bronx Zoo a few times, so I thought I knew what a gorilla was. Much to my surprise, after asking my father, I found out it wasn't the kind of animal I had in mind. "Well then, Dad, what's a gorilla?" I asked. "Well, son, the gorilla they were talking about on the radio is a liberation fighter. As I explained to you before, there are all kinds of wars going on around the world, and these guerrillas wage war differently than what you see on television or have been taught in school." "Okay, that makes sense. And what is a Negro?" I asked. "Look in the mirror." The harshness of his answer both surprised and shocked me, but having politically active parents, I came to realize that something was terribly wrong with a society that puts distinctions on individuals based solely on color. But I was also grateful that my parents encouraged me as a youth to work with my peers to organize discussion groups and workshops that seriously addressed the questions of the day. As the next few years of my life unfolded, through these informal discussions and sessions and stuff, I came to realize that as a black person, in order to be considered equal to white people, I would have to spend much of my time de-emphasizing that very distinction of color. This is one of the more subtle and insidious ways that racial discrimination operates to become an impediment to true diversity and a multicultural society. Remember, just having people in the same room or the same neighborhood does not a multicultural society make. So, realizing this as a teenager was very painful for me because I also had been taught to appreciate the distinction of color as it relates to both achievement and pride. Now, these experiences brought me full circle insofar as developing working models for social change. It made me think, first, if change is inevitable, we need to direct the change instead of just watching it pass on by. And second, that as aware individuals truly committed to diversity, we need to instill through our work the clear understanding that we most likely will never see the end result of what we're striving for, but the notion that we are clearly creating a better world for our children is rooted in love, respect, and a forward vision. I have always, through my work, tried to keep those 2 points in mind and show the connection between consciousness and action. When one understands that most of what happens to them in their life is not a coincidence, they suddenly realize that they have more power to change their particular circumstances than they thought they originally had. The best examples of this type of active engagement is seeing workshop participants recognize that their consciousness has been raised and that the level of understanding attained is the beginning of change and not the end result of change. Too many times after participants or organizations reach their stated goals, they become complacent because they feel like the work is over and there's no more left to accomplish. This is why I started Isms and Issues. I started this consulting business with the purpose in mind of helping people develop a deeper understanding of what exactly diversity is and how to attain it. I also wanted to offer youth, leaders, and community organizations an opportunity to increase their understanding through unlearning workshops of how subtle forms of discrimination operate to disempower youth, women, people of color, gays, and lesbians. Isms and Issues works with organizations to help develop an understanding of how to interrupt racist, sexist, and homophobic behavior. Because of the initial success of Isms and Issues, I have added additional workshops over the years in fiscal management, leadership training, strategic planning, grant writing, and grants administration. Now, before I close, I want to explain what I mean when I say unlearning. The foundation of unlearning workshops is that in order for social change to occur, we have to be willing to unlearn forms of behavior that we have spent our whole lives learning. We must address how we have been socialized to accept misinformation as fact. On a personal level, it tends to be difficult to get people to see how we communicate with each other is a political question. You just can't assume that if everybody wants the world to be a better place and wishes it so, that it'll magically happen. It takes work and an understanding of how dominant culture assumptions operate and how disempowered people collaborate with those assumptions. In conclusion, I feel that to truly understand diversity and to create this multicultural society we so desperately want, we must take responsibility to help each other in our communities develop frameworks that translate historical lessons into a language that we not only understand, but can mobilize and educate around as well. We also need to help our youth understand the power and necessity of building coalitions and the fact that any movement will self-destruct unless it links up with other segments of the community that have been institutionally excluded from decision-making processes. Diversity and multiculturalism, of course, are a viable alternative, but like other social change endeavors, it must close the loop and force larger institutional structures to meet their needs and not rely on surpluses coming from the very system they expect to replace. So there you have it, some thoughts on what diversity means. I welcome your comments. Talk to you soon.